Okay, so a lot of you guys probably know me as an NBA draft guy primarily, but that really isn't the case. I actually got into the NBA draft primarily because I like watching college basketball better than the NBA. So the NBA draft kind of gave me a nice avenue to watch college basketball primarily and then apply it to an NBA context. And with this love of college basketball, you could probably guess what my favorite month of the year is, and that would be March. So one of my favorite activities that I do in preparation for the tournament, I look at bracketology predictions, and we're talking Joe Lunardi, Jerry Paul, Andy Katz, anyone you can think of. I've probably seen their bracketology. I look at all of it, and from time to time, whenever I see a bracket that I really like, I'll print it and I'll fill it out as if it's the actual March Madness bracket. And if you don't believe me, I can literally show you, because in my desk, so far I've only done a few of them, but right now here is, let's see, February 9th, February 2nd, and then most recently, February 17th. So again, I do these all the time. I wait for the Andy Katz bracket to come out just because it's the most printer friendly, and so I could just fill it out with a pencil and paper, which is nice. So that's the reason why all these are Andy Katz. So today I thought I would share with you one of my filled out brackets based on the most recent bracketology prediction from Andy Katz, which I believe happened on February 15th. So it is a few days late, but I still think it's recent enough to the point where it still makes sense to fill it out. So let's get right to it with the first four. Alright, so the first four is here. I'm admittedly not really caught up on the 16 seed scene. Yeah, so I'm just going to take a guess. I'll take NC, A&T just because they seem to be in the tournament a lot. And then I will take James Madison over Mount St. Mary's. I like the CAA better than the NEC. So I'll take James Madison and NCAA. For the 12 seed games, I will take Seton Hall over Colorado State. I really like Seton Hall this year. And then I will take St. Louis over Ole Miss. Ole Miss isn't a bad team, but St. Louis I just think rebounds the ball extremely well. And I really like that upperclassman core with Jordan Goodwin and Hassan French. So I will take St. Louis beating Ole Miss. So let's go to Region 1. And the way I'll do this, I'll go region by region. So I'll start with the top left and then make my way over to the top right, then the bottom right, and then finally the bottom left. And then I'll go to the Final Four from there. So let's start. We have Gonzaga versus NCA&T. Give me the Zags. Okay, moving right down the list. Maryland, Loyola, Chicago. I actually saw Loyola Chicago play for the first few times this weekend when they took on Drake. I really came away impressed with them. I love Ugwak. I like Cam Krutwig. Give me Maryland, though, just because I really like Maryland's core. I mentioned it in my Big Ten video that Maryland has really good pieces. The problem is they're all just playing up a role, but I think now that Eric Ayala is starting to get his stride a little bit going, you have Dante Scott, you have a bunch of guys who I think know their roles extremely well, and I think that bodes well for March. Give me Maryland over Loyola Chicago. USC Belmont, give me USC. I think Belmont's a decent team in the OVC, but USC I think has a lot of size that I think it would be tough for Belmont to handle. Iowa Winthrop, another one. Winthrop was a team that was undefeated. I think they were one of the last 4 undefeated teams. But give me Iowa. Luka Garza is a load to handle up front. So yeah, give me Iowa with their shooting, offensive prowess, and then probably National Player of the Year in Garza. Virginia Tech, LSU. Listen, I think Virginia Tech is a team that has overachieved all year. They've gotten hit with the COVID bug recently, so give me LSU. I think their offense is legit. Javonte Smart, Cam Thomas might be one of my favorite backcourts to watch in America. Combine that up front with Darius Days and Trendon Watford, and I really like LSU getting to the next round over Virginia Tech. All right, Oklahoma, Colgate. Give me Oklahoma. I'm not really super high on Oklahoma, as you'll probably see in a later round, but they'll beat Colgate here. All right, Clemson, Arkansas. Clemson's another one of these teams that I think has really overachieved this year. I think they're a good team, but I think Arkansas is a better team. We saw what they did to Missouri when Justin Smith came back, and now they got their full complement of players. Moses Moody's going to be a lottery pick, and Arkansas is going to be a really tough out in the tournament, so I will take Arkansas over Clemson. And then finally, we have Houston, Grand Canyon. Given the fact that Grand Canyon won't be playing this game at home in front of their crazy fans, I will take Houston to make it to the round of 32. So now we have the second round matchups. Here we go. Gonzaga, Maryland. Really like this matchup. It'll be fun. Maryland just isn't talented enough to hang with Gonzaga. They got Suggs, Kispert, Ayayi, Timmy. Those guys are just too much to handle for Maryland. Give me Gonzaga to the Sweet 16. USC, Iowa, we have a matchup of 2 awesome center prospects in Luka Garza and Evan Mobley. One of them is going to be taken a little bit higher than the other. I think you guys can guess which one. But listen, I think Iowa beats USC here just because I think they have the experience. And Luka Garza, I think, is a better college player than Evan Mobley is a college player. So you got to kind of take that into consideration as well. Give me Iowa beating USC to move on to the Sweet 16. All right, LSU, Oklahoma. I think I'm going to surprise a lot of you with this pick. I'm taking LSU to beat Oklahoma. Listen, Oklahoma is, again, another team that has really overachieved, in my opinion, given the talent level. And really, with LSU, their talent is just so enticing that I think they can handle Oklahoma. With their offense, they remind me of a 2019 Auburn team that just got super hot from three and just started blowing teams out of the water. LSU probably doesn't have that ceiling, but I do think they are capable of winning 2 or even 3 games in the tournament. So that's why I'll have LSU beating Oklahoma. Again, Oklahoma, I like some of their pieces, but right now I just think LSU has the more established talent. So give me LSU. All right, here we have Arkansas and Houston. Again, I like Arkansas, but Houston just is a super tough, gritty team. Quentin Grimes has been awesome. Marcus Sasser is really good. They got hurt by the loss of Caleb Mills earlier in the season, but they've rebounded well from that. Give me Houston to beat Arkansas. I just trust their defense. I trust the fact that they'll rebound the ball extremely well. So give me the Cougars to beat the Razorbacks here. So now we're into the Sweet 16. We have Gonzaga against Iowa in a rematch. In the first game, Gonzaga pretty much handled Iowa. I wouldn't really expect anything different to happen here. So give me Gonzaga to beat Iowa. And in the other Sweet 16, give me LSU to beat Houston. This is just a really favorable sub-region for LSU, and that's why I have them going to the Elite Eight. But again, when you have offensive talent like they do, I really like LSU getting far in this particular lie. And then we have in the Elite Eight, Gonzaga against LSU. This is where LSU's Cinderella run falls short. I have Gonzaga getting to the Final Four. All right, moving on to Region 2. First matchup we have is Baylor against James Madison. Give me Baylor. No UMBCs here. Give me the Bears. Interesting 8-9 matchup here. Indiana, BYU. If you guys watched my Big Ten video, you know how high I am on Indiana. This is a team that's beaten Iowa twice, and they just have the pieces, in my opinion, to win a game in a tournament. So I will take Indiana over BYU here. In the dreaded 5-12 matchup, we have Wisconsin, St. Louis. Last time Wisconsin was a 5 seed in this particular region. The 12 seed beat them. I'm going to do the same thing here. I have St. Louis beating Wisconsin. I think St. Louis's physicality would give Wisconsin a lot of problems, so I will take the Billikens beating the Badgers in the round of 64 for this region. We have Texas and UCSB. Give me Texas here just because of their athleticism. I think this is a team that can beat you in a variety of ways. They can beat you with the perimeter attack. They can beat you down low. They have 3 big guys who, in my opinion, are all NBA draft prospects with Greg Brown, Kai Jones, and Jericho Sims. So give me Texas beating UCSB here. Kansas, VCU. Give me Kansas. A lot of people like VCU come tournament time, especially this year with Bones Highland, who's looking like a top 40 NBA guy. But give me Kansas. Kansas right now I think is a little bit underrated. I still think they have decent enough pieces to win a game in a tournament. Are they going to be on upset alert in the first round? Yeah. I still trust Bill Self. I trust Marcus Garrett, Ochai Agbaji to get something done in the tournament. All right, Tennessee and Liberty. Tennessee's been a whirlwind to follow, but I will take them beating Liberty here. I like their defense a lot, and I think they're starting to figure it out on the offensive end as well. Colorado Drake, we have the class of the MVC alongside Loyola Chicago and Colorado. I really like Colorado. McKinley Wright IV is due for a tournament win. Senior guard, and those tend to do well in March. He plays extremely hard, and I think it's about time he gets a tournament win for himself. So give me Colorado over Drake. Illinois, Siena. Siena was another one of those teams that people really started to like once they started off. I think they started off like 11 or 12-0. Give me Illinois, though, in this one. All right, we have Baylor, Indiana. I think Indiana might be able to give Baylor a little bit of problems, but right here I will give the edge to the more consistent and more talented team, which is the Baylor Bears. Give me them moving on to the Sweet 16. In this one, we have St. Louis and Texas. I will take Texas. These two teams play similar styles, and I think Texas has more talent to execute that style to a better level than St. Louis would. So give me Texas beating St. Louis. Kansas, Tennessee. We all saw the game in Knoxville where Tennessee just smoked Kansas. I'll say Tennessee beats Kansas again. I think the overall talent is better in Knoxville than it is in Lawrence this year. I like defensively what Tennessee could do to stifle those Kansas guards. And listen, if Keon Johnson or Jaden Springer has a big night offensively, then you're looking at a team that could make a Final Four run. So I think right now, there are more irons in the fire for Tennessee to win ball games than there are for Kansas, and that's why I'll have Tennessee moving on. All right, Colorado, Illinois. I really like Colorado, but Illinois is just too good. They're playing really well right now. Ayo Dosunmu might actually be the National Player of the Year if you look at Big Ten play and on. One of the most reliable, clutch guards in the Big Ten this season, probably the entire country, now that I think about it. So give me Illinois beating Colorado here. All right, so Sweet 16, we have Baylor and Texas, which I just think is a loaded Sweet 16 matchup. Texas took Baylor to the brink for 30 minutes, I would say, the last time they met in Austin. I will take Baylor, though. I think Baylor's defense is a little bit better, and I trust their guards more on offense than I do Texas. I think Jared Butler, Maceo Teague, and Davion Mitchell get the job done and beat Texas to move on to the Elite Eight. All right, Illinois, Tennessee, two teams that I could easily see being upset in the first round, but I have them here meeting in the Sweet 16, so I will take Illinois beating Tennessee in the Battle of Oranges. Illinois, again, just more of the same with Ayo Dosunmu. I think Kofi Cockburn can really give Tennessee's front line some problems. He would be the biggest guy on the floor at all times. And yeah, right now I trust Illinois' offense more than I do Tennessee's offense, so this is a rather easy pick for me. I will take Illinois. And in the Elite Eight in this region, we have Baylor, Illinois, another rematch. Baylor beat Illinois, I believe, by 13 back in early December. And in these rematch games, I will continue the theme of having the winner of matchup 1 be the winner of matchup 2. I will take Baylor over Illinois. I really think Illinois could give Baylor some problems this time around, especially with the way they're playing as of late. But I trust Baylor this year so much compared to past years. I really like that backcourt. And listen, I just think when you have a team that plays with such an identity that Baylor does, I think that's really hard to disrupt in March. And I want to see how they play coming out of this COVID layoff that they've had. I still am really high on Baylor, and I will have them moving on to the Final Four. All right, Region 3, we start with Michigan and Vermont. Vermont being the class of the America East. I don't care. Give me Michigan moving on to the round of 32. Next up, the 8-9 matchup, we have Louisville and Oregon. Oregon has been a team that has been constantly marred by COVID issues. I think they had a month without playing a game. Louisville, you could say the same thing for as well. Right now, though, it comes down to who do I trust more in the backcourt, and I would give the edge to Louisville with Carlik Jones and David Johnson. So give me Louisville beating Oregon here. 5-12, we have Creighton and Western Kentucky. That could be an awesome matchup because Creighton is a perimeter-oriented team. I would love to see how they would handle Charles Bassey down low. I will give the edge to Creighton here just because I think their shooting and their overall offensive flow is too much to stop for Western Kentucky, but that's a game that I would really, really want to see in the first round of the NCAA tournament. All right, we have Missouri and Wright State. Wright State being the class of the Horizon League. Give me Mizzou. I think Mizzou is another one of these teams, though, that has overachieved thus far, given their talent level. We've seen them go on a little bit of a slide as of late. But give me Missouri to make it out of the first round in this one. Okay, Rutgers, Utah State. Another really tough matchup for me here. Utah State is a team that I think could wreak havoc on some higher-up teams like a Rutgers. And honestly, I kind of think Rutgers is prone to an off-night shooting every once in a while. I like Utah State beating Rutgers here. All right, West Virginia and UNC Greensboro. West Virginia has always been a 3 seed and has always lost, it seems like. This year, though, I am very high on West Virginia. I will take them beating UNCG. All right, UCLA, Florida in the 7-10. UCLA just hasn't been the same team since they lost Chris Smith. You can make the same case for Florida with Keontae Johnson, but I like the pieces at Florida better than I do at UCLA as a whole, so I will take Florida beating UCLA in the 7-10 matchup. All right, here we go. Villanova and North Dakota State. Give me Villanova to win this one rather handily, I would say. Okay, second round. We have Michigan and Louisville. Louisville, I really like their perimeter cohort, but Michigan's just too deep and too skilled. Isaiah Livers is a beast. Franz Wagner is a beast. Hunter Dickinson down low. How do you stop him? I think this Michigan team is a buzzsaw, so I'll have them moving on to the Sweet 16 here. All right, Creighton, Missouri. I will take Creighton here just because I think their offense is a lot more reliable than Missouri's. Also, again, I mentioned it earlier, but Missouri, I think, is an overachieving team. It wouldn't surprise me to see them fall to like the 6th line by the time March rolls around. I think Creighton is trending upward, and I think that will continue. So give me Creighton beating Missouri. All right, Utah State, West Virginia. Give me West Virginia. Again, I'm really high on West Virginia. Deuce McBride, I think, is one of these guards that is made for March. Him, along with the guys like Ayo Dosunmu and Jared Butler and Jalen Suggs, I think are all super tough-minded, can make a shot when needed. And so I think this West Virginia team is different from previous teams in that it has a go-to shot maker and one that I actually trust. So I think Deuce McBride is definitely that guy. So I'll have them beating Utah State here. All right, Florida Villanova in a battle of former Rainey School teammates in Scotty Lewis and Brian Antoine. Scotty Lewis obviously plays a lot more than Brian Antoine. Give me Villanova here. I just think Florida is a little bit too inconsistent for my liking. Villanova, on the other hand, I don't really like their ceiling necessarily, but I do think that they are good enough to beat Florida here, so I'll put them in the Sweet 16. All right, Michigan, Creighton. I really wanted to put Creighton here, but I just couldn't do that to Michigan. Michigan, I just think, is so good, especially what we saw out of them after the COVID layoff that they had, and then they just go out and beat Wisconsin after they struggled in the first half, and then they just totally turned it around in the second. Yeah, this Michigan team is just really good. I cannot pick against them here. So I'll have Michigan in the Elite Eight. And for me, they will be playing West Virginia. Listen, West Virginia, again, I trust their shot makers more than I do Villanova. I understand Villanova has a great offense. I'm not discounting that, but I'm saying that when everything is going wrong, I trust West Virginia's scorers more than I do Villanova's. I don't really think Villanova has an offensive dynamism that it has had in the past on their championship teams. And so when it comes to a team like West Virginia, where Deuce McBride is just a bucket getter, you have Derek Culver down low who can out-physical teams. Listen, I just think this is a bad matchup for Villanova, and I'm going to give the edge to West Virginia here. So in the Elite Eight, we have Michigan and West Virginia. Again, this is another time where I've just been so tempted to pick against Michigan. Listen, I'm a Notre Dame guy. Like, I'm not a Michigan fan, but just they haven't given me any reason to not pick them to get to the Final Four. So that's kind of my reasoning here. Again, I really like West Virginia. If West Virginia were a 3 seed in the 4th region, I would totally pick them to get to the Final Four. But they aren't. They have to run into Michigan. I'm sorry this is boring so far, but give me Michigan to get to the Final Four. So right now we have 3 1 seeds all in the Final Four in Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. Stay tuned for the 4th region, though, because I promise you it is going to be a little bit more chaotic. Here we go, last region. Let's start with Ohio State and Eastern Washington. Give me Ohio State beating Eastern Washington in the first round. So we have that 1 seed moving on. 8-9, Xavier, Minnesota. I think Xavier has been a very big beneficiary of not having to play certain games. So I don't really trust Xavier. I really do like Minnesota, though, because they've played in the Big Ten. They've shown they can beat really good teams. They handed Michigan their only loss. They beat Ohio State. So give me Minnesota beating Xavier here. Florida State against Seton Hall. Again, I really like Seton Hall. I think Sandro Mamukelashvili is a great player. He'll be a second-round pick. And I actually think Jared Rhoden is a guy to keep your eye on for 2022. But Florida State, I just think with their size and length, with Scotty Barnes, MJ Walker, Raekwon Gray, Tanner Ngam, Balsa Koprivica, they have way too many athletes on that team. They go 10 to 11 deep, and this team is just too loaded for Seton Hall to handle. I'll take Florida State moving on. We have Texas Tech Toledo here. Give me Texas Tech. I really like what they're doing in terms of their wings. I like Terrence Shannon Jr. I like Micah Peavy. Mac McClung is a guy who can get you 20 on any night. They're a little bit shallow up front. If Marcos Santos Silva gets into foul trouble, I don't know how long they can go small. But against Toledo, I don't think they should have any issue, so I will take Texas Tech. Purdue, San Diego State. Give me Purdue. I actually really like the Boilermakers this year as like a quality 6 seed. Brandon Newman and Jaden Ivey are just awesome in terms of a backcourt, and they're both super young. This is a team that next year they could be really, really good, assuming everybody comes back who's supposed to. So give me Purdue beating San Diego State this year. All right, Virginia and Abilene Christian. Give me Virginia. I'm not super high on Virginia, but I think they're good enough to beat Abilene Christian, so I will take the Cavaliers. Oklahoma State and UConn. This is actually a really fun matchup because Oklahoma State obviously has Cade Cunningham, and if you're interested in Cade Cunningham, I actually have a video that I'll promote up here. So yeah, just make sure you guys check that out if you're interested in him. But UConn, they just got back James Bouknight, who is going to be a top 10 pick if I had any say in it, and he's really good too. He can take over games. So right now, it's about who has the better supporting cast, and I actually think UConn has a better supporting cast. I think Dan Hurley's team is pretty deep, and I think the absence of Bouknight really helped some other guys like Tyler Polley and RJ Cole step up and establish confidence. Now you add Bouknight back into the fray, and all of a sudden I think you have a really good team. I would probably have them as the 3rd best team in the Big East, too. So I will take UConn beating Oklahoma State here. And in the 215, we have Alabama, Texas State. Give me the Crimson Tide. Contrary to what you see a lot, Alabama is actually better defensively than they are offensively, but their offense is just so fast and so fun to watch. They can just blitz teams, so I will take Alabama beating Texas State here. Round of 32, here we go. Ohio State, Minnesota. Minnesota's gotten them at home. I like Ohio State here. I'm lower on Ohio State than most people. I got slammed on a TikTok for saying Ohio State doesn't have the talent to make a Final Four, and you'll see why in a second. I like them to beat Minnesota here. I think they do have the experience needed to get to the Sweet 16 at least. So give me the Buckeyes over the Gophers. Now we have Florida State, Texas Tech. This game I've went back and forth on a lot. I'm going to take Florida State, though. Again, I really like Florida State. They were one of my teams in the original Magic 8. And I think they have the athletes to match up well with Texas Tech and maybe even overwhelm them to a degree. MJ Walker, I really buy as a late-game scorer. Their offense is phenomenal. I think they're shooting around 39% from 3 as a team, which is just astounding. So give me Florida State. What it comes down to for me here which do I trust more, Florida State's defense or Texas Tech's offense? And I lean Florida State's defense. So I will take the Seminoles moving on to the Sweet 16. But those are two Sweet 16 level teams there. And honestly, I could see either one of those teams getting to the Elite Eight if things break their way. That's definitely the best round of 32 matchup that we have so far, Florida State, Texas Tech. But I just like Florida State a little bit too much. All right, we have Purdue and Virginia in a rematch of the 2019 Elite Eight game that obviously ended with that awesome Kihei Clark pass to Mamadi Diakite. I think this year Purdue will get revenge if this were to happen. I think Purdue is one of these teams that will be battle-tested come tournament time because they played in the Big Ten. Travion Williams, I think, could out-physical Jay Huff on the blocks. And honestly, Virginia is just one of those teams I just don't really buy. I mean, I've had a lot of these teams. I've mentioned Oklahoma. I've mentioned Missouri. Virginia is just one of those teams I just don't really think is that good. And I think they're being bolstered by a historically weak ACC. So give me Purdue beating Virginia here. All right, Alabama-UConn. This would be an awesome matchup just because we get to see UConn and James Bouknight go against Alabama in their high-flying, fast-tempo offense. I'll take Alabama here just because I think they have enough scoring to overwhelm UConn. John Petty Jr. is a guy that I just love to watch play because he's got the eternal green light. You have Jaden Shackelford. You hope you can get Jordan Bruner back by tournament time, but in the meantime, Alex Reese has done a good job stepping up. Josh Primo is awesome, and then Herb Jones is just so much fun to watch. He's like a 6'7" point guard out there, really good passer, awesome defender, not a great three-point shooter, but he's kind of like what Draymond is to the Warriors in terms of just being the guy who can pass, who can rebound, lead the break, things like that. And so Alabama is a team built to destroy when it comes to March Madness. I can't wait to watch them in the tournament and in the last few weeks of regular season here. So I will take them over UConn. So in the Sweet 16, we have Ohio State and Florida State, a little revenge game for CJ Walker. Give me Florida State here. And listen, when Florida State matches up with Ohio State, how many NBA players are on the floor? I would argue you could say that there are probably 4, okay? 4 that I would consider being NBA players, right? And not all of them are great. Scotty Barnes is the obvious one. He'll be a top 10 pick. He's the best player in terms of NBA potential on the floor. Then you go to the second round-ish guys, and I have 3 guys there. I have MJ Walker for Florida State, who was a former McDonald's All-American, and now is a senior for the Seminoles. You have Balsa Koprivica, who is a 7'1" big man, really skilled. Not really a shooter yet, but I think he can be. And so you have him as a guy I would consider taking in the second round. And you have EJ Liddell for Ohio State. Other than that, though, Ohio State doesn't really have a lot of NBA guys. And I worry about that in the tournament when things aren't going their way. We all know how great Ohio State's offense is. They have the shooters, but they're not really that efficient individually. So I wonder what happens if Dwayne Washington isn't really knocking down his shots, if Justin Arwins doesn't have a great game himself. What happens? You know what I mean? And Florida State, I just think they have more options. They have more talent to withstand whatever droughts their offense might cause. I trust Florida State's defense more, and I just think their athletes are better as well. So I will take Florida State over Ohio State in the Sweet 16. In the second game, we have Purdue and Alabama. Give me the Crimson Tide. We talked about this a lot, but their offense is just so much fun to watch. Purdue doesn't really have the firepower, in my opinion, to compete with Alabama. And the only reason why I had Purdue beating Virginia is because I don't really think Virginia has enough firepower either. Alabama, I just think, is just a wrecking ball. I think they would beat Purdue. So in the Elite Eight, we have Florida State and Alabama. Give me the Seminoles. Maybe this is just me clenching to my Magic 8 prediction, which had them as the sleeper team. But I really like the Seminoles here. Alabama's really good, but Florida State just plays so together. I don't really see any egos on the Seminoles, and I think Alabama has had some issues with that in the past. Florida State plays like a team. They operate as one. Their defense will be good. And listen, if their offense is doing this well, then I would consider that a wash with Alabama's. I really like the Seminoles to beat Alabama, but again, this is just a clash of titans in the Elite Eight here. I really like both teams, but I'm giving the edge to Florida State here. Yes, my friends, we have made it to April. We are now at the Final Four in Indianapolis. We have Gonzaga, Florida State, and Baylor, Michigan. I will start with Gonzaga and Florida State. I really like both teams. Both teams were in my initial Magic 8. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I think Florida State's going to beat Gonzaga. I really do. The one game where we saw Gonzaga get a little bit nervous, it was the West Virginia game, right? And what happened? Why was that game so weird for Gonzaga? Outside of the Jalen Suggs injury, what happened is that Drew Timme in the post was overwhelmed by the physicality of West Virginia. That was back when Oscar Tshiebwe was on the team, and you also had Derek Culver, right? when you had those two guys just beating Timmy up, he didn't really have a great game. Florida State has the roster to really pound Gonzaga physically. And they've shown that at times they can go shot for shot with Gonzaga or teams like that. Listen, this is crazy, okay? But give me the Seminoles, man. Other side of the ball, we have Baylor and Michigan. This is just another matchup of Titans here. Two teams that are both extremely talented. I am going to take Baylor here just because I think their guards are a little bit more reliable. I think Baylor's defense would really test Michigan's offense. They would really test guys like Mike Smith and Eli Brooks to do well against that pressure. I think Baylor could turn Michigan over a decent amount, and this would be an awesome game. Probably one of my favorites outside of maybe Gonzaga-Baylor in the title game. But give me Baylor here. They just seem a little bit more composed than Michigan. I've seen Michigan a few times kind of lose their cool, and Baylor, I feel, never loses their cool. They always are playing within themselves, and I think that will shine brightest in the Final Four against a really good team like Michigan. So give me Baylor to beat Michigan and get to the national championship game. All right, so here we go. National championship. It's a Monday. We're all tired, but we got to watch the game that starts at like 9 o'clock Eastern. We have Florida State and Baylor, two teams that I loved last year, are now finally getting their chance to dance in the national championship game a year later. I am going to take the Baylor Bears to beat Florida State. Again, Jared Butler, I think, will take home Final Four MOP honors, and we don't talk about it as much because Baylor's defense is so good, but Baylor's offense is actually really impressive too. They're like top 3 in the country in offensive efficiency. They shoot like 40% as a team from 3. So give me Baylor beating Florida State in a very good game. Probably one that's a little bit more low scoring if I had to imagine. I think Florida State could really give Baylor issues because you can have guys like Scotty Barnes guard down, which I think could overwhelm a Davion Mitchell or an Adam Flagler. But when it comes down to it, you trust the guards, you trust the culture. I didn't make a 14-minute Baylor video just to not pick them in a national championship game. Give me the Baylor Bears beating the Florida State Seminoles in the national championship game. And that's it. That is the brackets. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure we're going to disagree on several points, so feel free to just light me up in the comments. I don't care. That's what I'm feeling right now. Big time surprise in Florida State getting to the Final Four and ultimately the national championship game. But again, the Baylor Bears are going to be your national champion in 2021. With that, I will end the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all very soon for the next time.